Fake Safety Podcast with Vance and Bart.
It's a trap. There's no comfort fitting in a fake safety that no one believes in.
Napster,
Bear share.
LimeWire. I mean, who would have ever seen Jenna Jameson's naked vaginal region without LimeWire?
If you ever need to know what the best proof that the market will find the best way, all you have to do is look at how porn drives technology.
Agreed. Or and that's a forced thing too, because technology should be driving porn, but because of regulation and whatnot, it's the other way around. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Jenna Jameson should just be another porn star, but because she is the porn star that came up during the internet revolution, we talk about her more than others, and she dates UFC stars and whatnot.
Napster, is that what you wanted to chat about?
Oh, Napster being the share the music platform. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very good way to look at the non-aggression principle, and just go ahead and cut through all the bullshit and be like, hey, what about intellectual property? Let's go ahead and talk about it as true libertarians as we are.
The NAP.
Yeah. It's the non-aggression principle.
It is pretty much what it says on the tin. I will say that. But if you can, for our listeners, what is the essence of the non-aggression principle?
To our listeners, who knows what they're thinking, but to me, it is, I don't want to give too much to it. It's everything, really. I can't think of anything that it's not. I don't advocate to take or steal or violently coerce you to give up anything that you own because of whatever I think is more important. So when you till the land, I think this is today tends to be an argument against this. So land, property, whatever exists, nobody's taking care of it. You end up taking care of it. You till the land, you own the land, you support the land, you provide for other people due to the land, you own the land. What does this mean for society? A lot of people would, especially on the communist side, would say, nothing. This is pointless. I want everybody to be equal. So, then everybody starves and all goes shit. But the real goal of communism, when communism was being thought of as a way to live as a society for the benefit of the masses, it was thought about to bring peace between people, to bring some sort of happy coexistence between this group and that group. But what has happened is they've taken the capitalist view and they've said, okay, every communist thing that we've done attaches to this, and we call them this capitalism. And therefore, they've distorted the view of capitalism to the point that now they can critique it, and rightfully so critique it, to this evil form of social structure that we've accepted through the idea or the vein of capitalism, which is disgusting, to be honest with you. There's no reason why we should call what we do today capitalism or anything else except for a political win in calling it capitalism. So I don't know if you can add anything to where we stand today in the words capitalism, but that's where I feel we're at.
So I think we might have gone a little bit out of order here, but I would say that that's what the NAP means to you and how it impacts your philosophy and how you live your life. But I think it's also important for us to just define what it is, literally, which is not aggressing on others, but there are limits there and questions around what that applies to or who that applies to.
Okay.
The non-aggression principle, the NAP, or the NAP, as some libertarians call it,
That's right.
begs the question, does this apply just from person to person, or does this apply to animals?
Wow. I didn't see that one coming.
I think in all seriousness, I think your initial point playing with Napster and LimeWire and BearShare, I think intellectual property is one of the most complex applications of the NAP and probably not the easiest and most palatable, but probably the one that's worthwhile to dig into. So if you still want to go down that path, I think that's probably the most interesting one. How does the NAP apply to digital music, digital porn, downloading images of Jenna Jameson?
Right. So there's a lot of different views on how this should be applied to society. I would say begrudgingly. I certainly did not come to this side leaning in its favor. I was definitely leaning the other way. Mainly because of my protectionist views on technology and other countries. So as China would steal some technology from us and then provide it at a cheaper cost or whatever because they didn't have all that overhead, I would say, oh, that's stolen, whatever. And it very well could be. But I was also advocating for, legislation to steal productive value from this so-called thieves of whatever I was pretending like got stolen. And then, as I progressed in my libertarian thought, I realized I was being lied to by all of these people. So who am I to say who's really should be in charge of this property? Which in turn brought me to a whole nother set of questions that probably the protectionist didn't intend on me even asking. was, is the world better off if nobody is asking these questions, or if somebody is asking these questions? And what I found was the more and more people collaborate through the free market on any subject, the faster it tends to progress and create benefit to society. But as soon as you're forced to collaborate on this item, it ceases to be beneficial to society. This is a really weird place to be, because there has to be a benefit for you to even, in a capitalist mindset, there has to be a benefit if you're putting through brain power, computing power to do X or Y. But the problem with most people looking at things through a so-called capitalist mindset is they look at things through a dollar or a euro or whatever they want to consider currency mindset, even Bitcoin. That isn't necessarily the case. If I say I like the way this classroom is going with this experiment, and I contribute to it, and I contribute some math problems and some math experience that maybe the teacher doesn't have or didn't know to teach at the time. I've contributed to this class in some form or fashion. There is a value to what I've done. And do I ask for that value back in return on an even note? No. Maybe I don't even want anything. Maybe I just am intrigued by the idea of sparking somebody's intellectual whatever experiments or whatnot. This is value to me personally in this circumstance. Therefore, this is a capitalist outcome, not a communist. There is a value created by me sparking some interest in liberty thought. So when people criticize capitalism for their for the monetary advancement, they forget that there's not a nonprofit out there that runs in this way that they think is beneficial. All nonprofits, at least in the U.S., run on a self-sufficient monetary value or thought or whatever. They're just not allowed to bank income beyond a certain point. So if you think about it, like say we create, we have a dairy farm that, gives milk to poor people. Well, you could just, milk the cow forever until it dies, and then your so-called nonprofit is gone. Or you can milk the cow until it dies, but you've already, you've established a new cow by then, and it's really not a seamless transaction into cow to milk scenario. And then nobody really bitches, nobody really cares, and we all pretend like you're just this savior, providing milk to people. Or, we do exactly what you pretend like you're doing, and then we don't have another cow. And then everybody who needs milk, who is relying on that, and no longer has milk, and we've created a starving circumstance for infants and whatnot, and it gets really bad.
The scenario with the cow, I would say, is more about like a finite resource.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas going down that education path or that contribution you were talking about there, coming from that intellectual property place, we're not really stealing something that's a finite resource or a material. It's about stealing an idea or a way to do something or a method. So we don't really run out of that resource.
The problem with the intellectual thing is that we're all coming up with new ideas all the time, and if we can build off each other's ideas, we end up in a better place towards the end. I do understand that you come up with a good idea and you want to keep it a secret and you want to benefit from your idea. Well, in my scenario, which I do understand the argument the other way, but I think the most beneficial scenario for humanity is, okay, well then keep it a secret until you can't or need to do something else. It's your property. Keep it a secret. It's your responsibility.
So thinking about intellectual property as far as recipes or songs or porn, it's a little easy to minimize the significance of those contributions. Even people who are artists and take those kind of things personally will still admit that there's a significance to something with a bit more impact. Let's say the chemical makeup of a drug. Depending on when you're listening to this episode, no matter when you hear this, Big Pharma is probably part of the conversation somewhere. So if we don't have patents for drugs, if we don't have intellectual property to protect that formula, let's say, if I'm a drug manufacturer, then that means in order for me to recapture the value of what could possibly be billions of dollars in research means that I would keep that formula a secret forever.
Maybe, if you could. I don't think you could. But the problem with that kind of thought is, for one, thinking you could keep it a secret. Two, who cares? I'll come up with something else and make money. Like, you're not stopping me from making money by holding something back. Only thing you're doing is stopping yourself from making money. At three, that's what's done today. They use intellectual property and the so-called protectionist bullshit pharma to hide solutions to problems we have now. They'll say, we're testing a solution, and maybe the company who's putting forth the solution to whatever actually has something else they're making better money on in the works that they don't want to lose. So what they do is they just make sure the drugs they're testing don't pass any of the whatever, and they make it take up time. That way they can make, the one they want passes, and they become the shit. There's no competition, no real competition.
But I think the point that I wanted to just address was the idea that you made it sound like if you remove those IP barriers, it just becomes this collaborative space where everyone's building on everyone else's work. And I would have to imagine that if you can profit off of something, especially if you have some sort of monopoly over that thing, whether that be engineered or accidental, you would be further disincentivized from collaborating because you don't have any protection over what's yours within that collaboration.
I would agree with you on under what we live today, circumstances that it doesn't look good for taking those protections out. I would say it looks pretty bad for it. It looks like you're hurting the little guy, but I would also say look who those protections actually protect. Look at all the lawsuits that have been won, put forth, publicized in the last 2-3 years, and see who is winning that. Not who's coming up with the ideas. Look who's actually winning. It's the people donating to the right campaigns. It's the political BS. It's the friends of politicians, the friends of big government that win.
But power is power by any other name, right? So whether that's protection of intellectual property,
Power is
whether that's
pathetic.
keeping a secret.
Power is pathetic. That's not power. Power is gone. Power is dying. We are power. I am power. I beat Joe Biden any day. Put me up against like just a room of people and him, and let's talk face to face. I beat him every fucking day. Who am I? I'm Vance. I like Wayne's World and Spaceballs. I could fuck him up in any debate. Ever. I mean, that's where we're at today. We are at a place where the candy coating on the M&M is so fucking thin. It is about to melt and fuck up the air conditioner of that dude in Tommy Boy. It's gonna fuck his car up. I mean, it's
Richard.
so fucking thin, man. I'm telling you, it's over. The game is over. We've won. And it's snowballing now. It's just I couldn't stop it if I tried. I just happen to be on the winning side and I'm happy about it. There's nothing we can do to stop it. Freedom's happening now. It's over.